see, the torque converter does separate from the transmission pretty easy. Again, you have to remove your flex plate bolts. Ones of those T55s or something that I couldn't remove previously. I'll have to give her a go now. And from here, I can remove this head, disconnect the bottom end, remove all the accessories, and tear this motor down just to the block. That way I can pull the pistons out, pull the rings, pull the bearings, give her a good go through. Surprisingly, not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. These motors sit pretty packed in there, so they look pretty intimidating as they're in the car, but once you get them out, they're really not too bad. Just a lot of vacuum hoses and wiring. I've been playing with enough Subarus to really understand what that can mean, and you avoid stuff like that. See, you'll never know that was there. It's all for the PVC and vacuum. That kind of stuff is just pretty hard to find. I also see all the oil and grease there in the back. See how moist that is? Same thing within here. Usually a bad rear main causes that. So we'll take care of everything there as we're getting her done. So ended up going to Harbor Freight, grabbing some tools. Had to get that T55 or T60, whatever it is. Hopefully I can get that motor all stripped up now, and we'll go from there. So it was a T55. This is what I used to get off those bolts, and I just put the torque converter back into the tranny, screwed them back in. So the next step is removing these 12-point bolts. Looks like they are a 18, possibly. I'll have to go dig and see if I have one of those still. So if I took a different technique to mount that engine stand there, I got the old Subaru motor on the ground. That was fun wrestling that around. Had to use another one of those tires to set it on, and then I flip it back over, lift this up a little bit, and I'll slide that stand under and see how she sits. It's gonna... Well, now we got the old engine on the engine stand, and it is time to take her apart. See if we can figure out if there's anything else wrong with this, or if I can actually use it or not. Remove these harnesses in the car. Props to you, man. You got some smaller fingers than I do. You can see somebody's been playing around. This guy should be up here, but it is not. Somebody's been in there, couldn't get it back in. And just marking some of these wires where these plugs went. These guys all in this section. Those are all for the main harness plug there. And you got a lot of these little small ones, and it just goes to show you what age can do to these things. It's just so hard. I can't even bend it. If I do, it'll just crack. Same with this little guy, just hard. Interestingly, somebody has marked that. I don't think that's from the factory. That may have actually been a pull motor. So somebody's probably replaced this before. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Who would have done this? How long ago? I have no idea. Good old Audi. I'm talking about when I say cars just break down and get old. Look at this. This is a plastic housing, right? This is what I was saying. You want to replace the metal one. Well, these things are all plastic from the factory, and you can see how swollen that O-ring is. I think it doesn't fit in the hole no more. I think it's completely useless. And there's supposed to be a ridge in there for that ring to sit in, and it's completely gone. It's just heated up and broken down. There's just nothing left. This whole thing is as hard as a rock now, and you think your brand new 2015, 2018, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is not exclusive to Audi. All manufacturers do this. They just make things fall apart. They break. They just make them out of poor materials that get heat soaked and rotted, and they just break. It's not just with it there, but if you look at the hose here, even it's all broken down. It's all squishy, and the nipple as well. Just sad. So if you look right here, after removing that, I found this little siliconed on bullet point here. It says BW Auto, would if removed. That's actually a marking tag that they use to identify a parts pulled motor from a junkyard, from a used car. They go through them and they find out. It's so hard it won't actually come off. It's like a hard plastic now. If it used to be rubber, it's definitely not anymore. Yeah, it's just stiff. Always good practice to fish your screws back up into the holes that they were in originally, just so you don't lose them, especially on something you've never worked on before. And just keep picking. Always good practice to fish your screws back up into the holes that they were in originally, just so you don't lose them, especially on something you've never worked on before. And just keep picking away, just get an idea of what you're trying to do, and I'm gonna go with it. Just mark stuff. Don't be afraid to get baggies out and mark some of your old parts where they should go. This stuff is so hard. Just like that. Go back, take some of these other parts back in. If you remove some things, just keep a mental note or have an example or take pictures definitely. As you can see, now the intake manifold is quite free. It should come right out now. I know those dipsticks like to break, so we'll have to be sure if either we're going to have to remove it or try and work around it. And then you got some more of those, looks like 5mm Allens again that hold this on. I'm noticing that whoever worked on this last did not really know what they were doing. Way too aggressive. This Allen bolt that I actually need to remove so I can get access to this very weird bolt that actually holds the fan, call it fan clutch or assembly, whatever on. Stupid, I've never seen a bolt like that before. Anyway, somebody stripped this out, and now I just figured out if I want to get it out. Ended up bringing out the old trusty wrist grips and my hammer I found. I don't know where I got this thing actually, maybe in a whole car or something. You ever get whacking? No, she's free. It really bamboozled me when I first saw this. I had no idea how to remove this guy. You look at it and you're like, what? What? I got no idea. I don't even know how it comes off. Turns out there was that bolt in there I just showed a second ago. It's on its own bearing, and this bad boy just slips right on through. Look there, there are 3 bolts to the fan clutch assembly there. That's actually really easy. Just pop them out. I plan on removing this and installing an electric fan actually for this. Reduce the amount of mass that it takes the engine to spin up. It'll run a lot smoother, a little quicker spool up, and just better drivability with an electric fan. So before I get too carried away, you can see how there's rust at the tops of these cylinders. It really won't be too big a deal, but it needs to be gone over and definitely re-honed. The pistons are come out and the new rings will be fine. Thankfully these things come out pretty easy. Unfortunately, we do have bent valves. Look at that right there. Little dudes touched. Oh boy. Remotors, guys, don't let this stuff happen. Bent valves, a lot of rust going on. She's a pretty sad looking block, but the heads aren't any better shape, unfortunately. You can see those 2 valves are still open, should not be open, and yeah, there they are. And these are benter than bent. You can see silver edges where they've been hitting Somebody ran it like that for a while, a little bit. So she's gonna need some love. Fortunately, this block isn't gonna work. I just, no way it's worth messing with all the oil low pressure and the cylinders being beaten up and beaten with an older style. I'm just not so sure I want to buy pistons and rods again for it, especially since it's been the time to put together and machine it. This car may be done. Maybe just send it to the scrapyard, I guess. And this one, I'm gonna try and find a motor still. Like there's any reason why they wouldn't be here. If they're in good shape, there's a good chance that they're gonna be damaged motor or something internal. So we'll see what the guys say at the counter now.